long ago?
Goran, you need to help me. This was Data Innovation Summit 19, maybe?
Yes.
So Data Innovation Summit 2019, we had a Danish guy who was a really good guy working in a top job with data, of course, and analytics. And then we found out sort of in the after party that, one of his main hobbies was to do stand-up comedy. And one of the favorite things he had was the roasting style of stand-up comedy, if you know this.
I remember the name now.
I can't remember. We need to.
But he roasted me so bad.
Yeah, but this is
in one of the bars.
But it was two angles to the story. So first of all, he built this piece or like bits on roasting the data and AI industry that he has tried on stage, like open mic stage and stuff like that. So he's been, doing the stand-up, and he did some of the stuff on us, and it was hilarious, all the stuff, But then it took a little bit of a wrong turn, because then he started roasting us. and when he was roasting me and Goran, that was super hilarious, because we knew the backstory and we knew what was going on. But he started roasting anyone walking past. So imagine getting exposed to a roasting person that you don't know is a roast. But so what are we talking about this? Well, what's the roast of 2024, I guess? This is the end season. Finale, or how would you frame it?
So I think we didn't have so much Kardashian dramas this year, for sure. But we had one big drama, which was the strawberry drama.
Oh.
But even wasn't it this year that someone got fired and got back? Gecky, and that happened this year too. The Kardashian drama is this year's.
Yeah, probably still here, but it was not so hype as it was in 2023. I think that is when it became so.
Yeah.
But I think
what's the big thing last year?
Yeah.
I'm so confused.
Yeah, but the times are running very fast. Keep in mind, we have been doing this now for 4.5 years. So next year we're starting the 10th season.
Season 10.
Season 10.
This is like a Seinfeld. Season 10. Blah blah blah.
10. So it's quite. I'm extremely proud. Just basically talking about it. I think it's been quite a journey so far, and plus I think it's been a fantastic year. We had some weeks that we didn't actually, when we didn't stream this year, and we deeply apologize to all the listeners and etc. But it has been a little bit of a busy schedule for all three of us. However, we still managed to produce 33 episodes.
In 2024?
Yeah, in 2024, which is not that small amount comparing to the other years. I think that maximum we have gotten like 35, 36 maximum.
So it's a couple of
still fine.
Episodes fewer. Yeah, okay,
still fine. What can I say more? From a producer perspective, I think it was an amazing year. A lot of topics to discuss. Great guests we pulled in. We had the first basically online as well podcast. So that was a little bit new for us this year.
Which one was that?
That was Harry Lupescu from Mosaic AI when the
Databricks,
which was very
Databricks launch.
So that was very interesting. And then what we tried this year is actually to go a little bit more into panels instead of doing just 1 or 2 man show. So we had like approximately 3 or 4 panels, and I think these are the most exciting ones.
For me, it's the most fun actually.
Yeah, I think that is super nice, and it's creates this energy behind it, and it's different perspectives on the same topic. So I think that we should actually try to do more and more of that in 2025.
Panels on a theme.
Panels on theme. I think that is all what it is. So let me just wrap up the year very quickly. First of all, I'm extremely proud that we are still remaining to be amongst the top most popular shows out of the podcast globally. Of course, there are quite a lot of them. It's 3,500,000.
3.5 million podcasts at this point of different kinds.
So we are aligned within the technology, and there is no technology and business classification which could be actually a little bit our turf, because it mixes between technology and how this is applied in businesses and society. So I think that will be perfect. But in most of the cases, we are ranked within the technology. So this year we will rank 15th on the list of best data science podcast on a good pods. So cheers and shout out to Good Postpod for putting us on this list. I think it was great. We are still ranked around like 41 globally on the top AI podcast. That is basically by FitSpot. And no
other
Swedish podcasts there in the list, if I may say so.
No Nordic actually this year, which
Nordic
was a little
even.
bit surprising because it was some actually Finnish and Swedish podcasts that were on that list that fall out this time. I guess it's as I mentioned at the beginning. I think it's the sustainability over time that beats. Keep in mind that Joe Rogan is right now on almost 2,000 episodes. He has been doing this for 10 years.
Lex Friedman is getting close as well.
Yeah, but
for a long time.
the pace that Joe Rogan has, man, come on. He's doing like 3-4 podcasts per week. That guy is an animal. So shout out to Joe Rogan. So if you're coming into Stockholm, you know where to find us.
That would be awesome.
that's the fanboys talking here.
Yeah. Good. So let's look at what we did this year. So we discussed talent and AI in recruitment. We spoke about RAG models to autonomous AI agents. We spoke about AI-driven software testing. We talked about AI innovation in banking. The AI apartheid, which was surprisingly very popular on internet.
It's a clickbait.
It's a clickbait for sure. We discussed multiple times actually the Swedish AI ecosystem and the implementation and the applications of that within all sorts of the public sector. We talked about AI in lean software development. We talked about AI-powered product development. We talked about the power grid of tomorrow. We talked about DBRX with Hagai that I mentioned before as well.
Databricks, right?
Databricks.
Yeah, this is Databricks, but at that point of time was still Mosaic ML.
It was right around the corner. No, Hagai started Mosaic and they got acquired, and then it was But didn't we do this when it was the big DBRX launch?
Yes, launch. It was the same. It was the same. Same week, I think, maybe even the same day. Then we talked about AI and the Christian democratic values with Lisa Maria Norlin. So that was a special
from the Swedish Democrats.
For the Swedish.
Yeah, partisekreterare
for the Swedish.
Kristdemokraterna.
Yes, exactly. We had AI learning and assistance with Sophie. We talked about deploying AI products. We talked about generation AI. The documentary is done by Alexander Norén. So that was a fantastic as well episode. AI in marketing with Emma. She was fantastic. Very great energy. Love that. We talked about AI-enabled future of music industry. We talked about building self-hosted generative AI solutions. We talked about the latest trends together with Luca, Jesper, and Sala Franzen, which was also the closure of season 8 before the summer. So that was actually super great panel, I think. Great energy, a lot of laughter. So if you haven't actually listened to that one, please go back. Although going back 6 months in AI, it looks like almost like a decade. The season 9 that started in September, we spoke about AI in the Nordic welfare system. We talked about 70B, the strawberry and other rumors. This was the Kardashian moment as well, because everybody was like, the AGI is coming, it's called strawberry. Well, it turned out it was not. It was called
Q-Star.
Yeah, it was called exactly Q-Star. But it was not. Nothing happened from that.
Well, it did. It's an O1 model.
01. And now 01, they charge 200.
Q-Star and strawberry was.
It's not so sexy as a strawberry, but I told you they will have an infringement problem.
And they launched it, and now they relaunched it. You know, they've done something again, and the pricing is hiked. We can talk about that.
And I told you they will have a problem with trademarking that thing, because Strawberry is a chain of hotels that we know very well in the Nordics. So somebody made money on that. We talked about HPC in Sweden and in European Union. And this is now becoming a reality because Sweden just 1 week ago got approval from
Yeah, factory, the Mimer, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So they're in total 7.
But
right?
this means
7 in Europe.
but it means a little
One in
bit.
Sweden. Then.
Yeah,
One in Sweden,
but the podcast with Tors done a little bit of a scope, because we had him here talking about the application that was sending in, and we were sort of, this was not really news out around broader, and now the Mimer story, the AI factory story, was pretty big this week.
Yes.
And we were on the story how many months ago?
Well, I think that there has been a lot of stories actually this year that we got caught up into, or basically entered rabbit holes. Did turn out to be a very good prediction of where we are going. So I'm extremely proud of that thing. To continue, we spoke about Sweden's AI journey and a future possibility with Sverker. That was actually a very good podcast as well. Testing and evaluating AI, you need to hear and listen to this podcast.
It may not sound funny, but it's actually a very good podcast, I think.
It was really, really
and
good.
I have another additional scope on that. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that, but yeah.
But either you say it, either you
No,
don't
cliffhanger.
say it. Okay, fine. All right, so we then went to high-performing enterprises in the AI era with Rainer Deutschmann, which according to YouTube Analytics, it's one of the most favorite this season. We were talking about revolutionizing healthcare in AI.
Which was really a federated machine learning conversation.
Yes, exactly. We spoke about AI-based software engineering with Anton Osika from Lovable.
A GPT engineer.
GPT engineer or Lovable.
Lovable. And they're doing amazing stuff right now.
And the launch was, it's already been the major launch now, I guess.
Yeah, it's been now for a month almost, and they're kicking ass at this point of time. So I'm extremely proud.
Doubling subscriptions per month.
Yes,
it's going really well, and it's an impressive piece of software.
And the core fact when he said how many stars on GitHub did they have? Like 50,000 stars at that time.
Much more now.
That is pretty impressive.
I think that in 8 days they got like a 1 million euro annual recurring revenue. So it's quite
fast
kudos
takeoff.
to Lovable team.
Yeah, right? Anton, well done.
And then basically we finished with the AI or applied AI research in practice with Sepideh. Me and Anders, unfortunately, we were not here that night, but Henrik took the flag and represented.
I really enjoyed Sepideh, the way she can sort of relate and evangelize around applied AI research and kind of position it. I find it that's a good episode if you want to understand the difference between research and engineering and what is applied AI research, and you can learn about technical readiness level 6 to 4 to 6 and stuff like this. Yeah, it was really good. She did a really good job at this.
I am so bummed that we were not here.
You missed it.
There were 2 actually episodes that we missed this year, me and Anders combined. One was this and the other one was with Jeanette. But we spoke with Jeanette, so she's coming on the season 10, so it's going to be super cool.
Yeah, and I butchered the season. One of my worst episodes as a host was probably with Jeanette, because I was so excited about all the stuff that she was talking about. And you know me, when I get excited, I fucking talk too much.
Yeah, but it was
so I'm glad that she's coming back.
Preparation for the next episode that we're going to have. And there are quite a lot of things happening in Sweden and the Nordics when it comes to AI. So it's a very exciting thing.
Very exciting time.
Very exciting time for AI in the Nordics. So if you guys from US or everywhere in the world, you're listening, join us here.
Join us here. This shit is happening. It's really happening.
Good stuff. So let's talk about recurring futures, or basically...
Wait. You went through the theme so fast, so you didn't even mention someone's, you didn't... Usually you name drop when you do a list like this. You didn't name drop.
I did.
Name drop a little bit. So, I mean, like, so you said Rainer, you said Sepideh. We had Jeanette Nilsson.
Yes.
Sverker Jansson, head of AI Center in RISE.
I mentioned all of that.
But we don't know who they are. Who knows? Okay. It's so interesting people. Sorry. I just want to do some name dropping.
You said that I should keep this short.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. So if we go in depth, like just go and listen to the episodes. It's going to be fine. These are class people. It's basically one of the best.
It's the top-notch people in Sweden.
Yes. Looking forward to actually get more Nordic people next year. And
we need to work on that.
Yeah. So now people even from different countries are applying to come to the show. So it's going to be interesting if we can make it happen.
Yeah.
So let's see. All right, good. So this is what I wanted to highlight a little bit because, of course, this would not be an AI show if we don't get all the transcripts and outlines and put them into AI. So
we use AI to summarize.
So I did this, and I'm sorry to Gemini and OpenAI and everybody else, but I use Perplexity to this. Perplexity, you still rock when it comes to research, so I like that very much. The interesting thing was about where we are when it comes to summarization of the entire topics that we discussed, and those are AI and future of work. So,
recurring themes.
Yes, recurring themes. So those episodes are episode 115, 117, and 140. So you can actually go and check them out. I will put some information in the link below. We talked about ethical concerns in AI. We cannot actually deny that the AI Act came to action this year in May. And it's been a very feisty dispute since then about how this is going to work in practice.
And more of the tech giants are actually canceling Europe.
Yes, exactly.
We've seen cancel Europe first month until you understand what you're doing. All the more or less all of the major tech launches have been delayed.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we still cannot use Llama 2, right?
Llama 2, I think, but
Llama 3. Right.
Yeah, but they're all delayed. Apple, but they go out in portions, in small portions, not the big launches that you see.
Yeah, all of them, yes.
Unfortunately, that is what it is, and it still looks a little bit shaky of what is going to be implemented and etc. I'm not saying that is a bad regulation. I think it's good. It's a really good thought behind it. But is it incentive for organizations in Europe to innovate or to let's say?
But I think
not
we need some
that
clarity on this. I mean, it creates an insecurity about, will I get sued or not? And
yes,
that causes companies to question if they should launch in Europe.
But I think
also European countries to not being willing to even use AI in some points. And that's similar to what happened in GDPR times. And we need to fix that.
And by the way, we solved how we should be doing it here at the pod, where we say, if the legislation is the what, now it's super important to ramp up on the how and putting things in place that basically makes us smooth and safe innovation country of the world. So I think, so the bottom line here is a little bit like yes, we made the law, now really step it up to make it easy to apply the law and guide us how to apply the law, and then make it a competitive advantage of Sweden that, if I want to be complying with the AI Act, it's easier because I get the help to do it right. Yeah. I think that we talked with several guests on this, and it's actually quite clear. It could be flipped into a competitive advantage for Sweden. But
the question is, can we balance data sharing with privacy, right? Keep in mind that now we're talking about, in order for this to work, so we are making a European AI Act. How come we are not talking about how countries are going to share data? I mean, even if you're talking about in Sweden, it's a little bit like... my fear that is going to be similar like with GDPR. It's just going to scare people off to innovate, but everybody's going to be stuck in a limbo.
The only thing to avoid the limbo is to have the people doing the regulation also taking care of the consulting and advisory and support to help us navigate it.
Yes.
And we don't want the consultants and the lawyers to make money on this.
Yes.
We want ourselves or even our states to make money on this in that case. So the law is great, but guidance is the key. I think it's super simple. And we had several simple, we could proved that in many conversations that that's the way to go.
Yes. The scary thing about this, and me and Anders, we were on a conference there where Jeffrey Hinton was basically presenting.
Oh, that's cool.
And what he says, what he said, and it struck me the most, he said and it's obvious, right? He says you read all of that, and then on the bottom it says none of this applies to governments and defense, right? So we can actually use AI for defense, but we cannot use to innovate in the other sectors. So I think it's a little bit Again, the same thing it was with the GDPR as well, because it didn't catch the... let's see. So, and another thing that he mentioned, which was very important, if you remember, Anders, he said the people that basically do not care about regulation, they will be the ones that are innovating the most. So that means all the criminals and everybody else who wants to do harm. And if we're looking at the GDPR and what is happening right now, people can still go online, find data about 70-year-old in Sweden that is, call their telephone number and do a lot of scams because of that, right?
But isn't that the biggest flaw of this conversation? That we want to regulate in order to avoid harm, but obviously the one who has nefarious purposes, who wants to do something bad, you don't catch them in this sense anyway.
I think GDPR, missed the target and the goal to a large extent, because the companies that have the easiest time to be compliant are the tech giants, and the one that don't care at all, the malevolent actors, they have no problem because they don't care. So the main target audience that is being hit by GDPR and the AI Act, I would say,
are the ones in the middle.
Are normal companies that are fearing about what the ramifications of this can be, and that's hitting innovation, unfortunately, and that's really sad.
I remember how we even talked about the trifecta in order to master GDPR. You have you have the size, you have the lawyers, you have the industrial approach to data, real industrial approach to data factory, pipelines and all that. And then you have a superior knowledge of technology and how you build and engineer stuff. And with that trifecta, you actually have this was not a problem.
Yeah,
to solve that. And that trifecta is what the super data elite has, but what majority doesn't have.
And they have a Swedish AI commission. We can get back to that later, but they came up with a report saying that the larger companies in Sweden actually have an easy time to do this, and I think nothing can be further from the truth. It's actually not correct at all. And even the biggest tech giants, if they are failing to comply with the law, then who else could do it? I mean,
this is an interesting one
with the biggest, legal teams you can think of and the best experience doing it, and they still are concerned. Of course, all the others will have super big concerns.
And this is interesting because in GDPR, that wasn't stopping one beat in the tech giants in their approach to Europe. They just fixed it. But all of a sudden, the AI Act now, even the tech giants are holding back their launches. So it means to the tech giants, even this is more tricky.
Yes.
Anyway.
All right, let's continue. We had AI and the future of work, recurring themes, ethical concerns in AI. And as you can see, it's a feisty debate still. We had AI democratization, so several episodes emphasize on the power imbalance between large organizations and open source initiatives. We had a discussion about AI in leadership and decision making. And then what was the most interesting as well, to put a topic on that, was we talked about quite a lot about cross-border collaboration in the Nordics, but that we can go through, and I think that I spoke about it earlier. One thing that I missed here, I'm just going through my notes. The shift towards decentralized AI development, and we talked about emerging technologies and applied AI. So this is the year in a nutshell.
The year in a nutshell, summarized with the support of Perplexity.
Yes, I mean there is quite a lot of things that are unseen here because the amount of content that we can put out and that we are putting out every year is quite
because on average there are 2-hour episodes, and we're talking 33 episodes times 2 hours. So the way when you want to go do analysis, you can either load the whole transcript, or how we did it this time, we loaded the key sections.
The key sections. The interesting thing about this is that even if we put basically all the 66 hours of content and more, 70 hours of content this year, and we put all the transcripts and everything else, I don't think that ChatGPT will have the
token space
for that. Yeah, but it's been a great year so far. So I'm very thankful to you guys for doing this as well together with me. We know that our Thursdays for every Thursday for the past 4.5 years has been here in this dungeon.
But it's easy to do. I mean, we love AI and we love to come here and have an after work, and combining the two, having an after work and speaking about AI.
But to move on then, if this was the AI summary of the year, what is the host's summary of the year in terms of the guests we had, and how would you reflect on it, Anders? The human reflection from the hosts, highlights, or what would you sort of
from the guests? You mean?
If we're starting with the guests, yes. If we start about the themes and the guests, sort of where would you sort of try? What would you highlight and put forward to our listeners?
Well, I think, speaking about testing and also QA tech with William, where we try to use AI to do more of the, let's call it MLOps kind of settings, where we really want to find value from AI and what it means to not just build a prototype, but actually put something in production, and being compliant with the regulation, all the sandboxing, everything connected to AI Act. I think that is so important topic. So for me, that was actually very interesting to hear.
So rewind the tape. So with Willem Ehrheim, he's a startup working with QA tech, quality assurance tech. Yes. And what they have been doing is to think about how would an AI-driven or AI assistant or agent-driven way of, supporting, I guess, user acceptance testing, or how would you frame it? Any types of testing that you need to do in order to understand if something is ready to be shipped production.
Trying to ensure that the quality of the code, etc., is actually sufficiently good, and you can use AI for that, and that's actually very powerful.
And just to elaborate for the people who didn't see the episode, I mean, like, a lot of stuff we need to act as human, click our way through and test things, and we need to have many different test scenarios, and this is a very tedious work to test every single stupid combination that can go wrong, which is a perfect storytelling for AI, of course.
And then moving to the sandboxing that we hopefully will get with AI Act at some point in the future, but we have really no good solution for yet.
But maybe this is the way.
Then perhaps we can actually have some AI helping with this, which would be really good. And I think that Petra is driving this from RISE.
That's the TEF episode.
And hopefully that can be something that makes us actually stand out, and it can actually be an opportunity for Sweden if we actually do find a value on this. And I do wish that we could actually see this as an opportunity instead. And if we do this right and better than other countries, it should actually be something that makes Sweden take the lead.
Yeah, and if I orientate the listeners from one startup, very, very interesting episode. We have another episode with Peter Dalunde, who's heading up what is called the technical or test and evaluation facilities within RISE, which is an EU assignment. When we have the AI Act, we need to set up test centers, how to evaluate that we are compliant to this. And then basically they need to figure out what is the methodology, how we evaluate that we have the models correct, that the data is correct, that the setup of the governance is correct. And they need to figure that out. So what you did now, you took, this is some interesting stuff, how the startup was thinking. And maybe this is very similar to things that we need to look at in a TEF.
I mean, I think if companies and people understood, it's actually not that hard to be compliant if you do it properly and just know what to do. So with the proper examples in place, if we could just have some reference implementations of how to properly use AI, that can actually be something that makes people less fearful and actually much more compliant and simply more responsible when it comes to the use of data and AI.
But and I really like that notion. If RISE and the TEF and the AI Factory or whatever we have takes the stance of we want to have safe and smooth innovation with AI, and actually if you're professional and do things right by design, you avoid the risk and you don't take the governance or AI Act compliance as an afterthought. You really do it right. And that should be...
But it's not easy. I mean, most companies don't know how to do it.
No,
even larger companies
right?
don't know how to do it properly. So I think this is actually something we need to invest in.
But then you can argue that this investment is equally important for AI innovation to adoption as it is for compliance. So they don't even know how to do it properly, so they're failing on value. So if you flip it, that whatever they're doing in the TEF is there not only to support compliance, if their mission is not compliance, but safe value, it would be better. It's great. It's awesome. If the TEF is set up correctly.
Well, more innovation, but for testing and compliance would be awesome.
Yeah.
That's perhaps
cool.
a good way.
Yeah, it's a good summary. What else?
Well, I know Anton Osika from before, and what he has done with GPT Engineer was something that I think is very seldom we see. It's one of the top open source projects from Sweden at all, which is
in
open
all
source.
Categories.
And that's amazing to see. And people that haven't tried it, I really recommend to go there and try it out. You can get some free credits, and you can see that you can actually build a product very, very quickly. I think they had a workshop recently where some of the super users of GPT Engineer, and now called Lovable, were sitting together and building some products, and they were tasked basically to, in like 11 minutes, build products. 11 minutes, and it's kind of crazy. And they also have this community now around GPT Engineer where some people are committing to building one product per day.
And when we say product, we're talking about something equivalent of some sort of web application per day.
Web with front end and back end and functionality and working. And
so
that's very different from.
So we're talking about one of the last episode, Anton Osika, and where he basically started almost like a conversation with his co-founder in Depict AI, Oliver. Oliver's surname? I'll drop it. But the core topic is like how can we improve the experience and how can we build an assistant for engineering or software engineering. And they did an open source approach, very much almost like a prototype or an experiment. And it got popular, and now he's really, the way he's describing it himself is it's probably one of the most consistently reliable GPT engineers or assistants to build a functioning web application. So we saw a big launch from Devin, and I think this is miles better. The Swedish version here is miles better. Maybe they have slightly different target audiences in terms of is it for a very experienced software engineer versus you don't need to be a software engineer and you can work on it.
I think it simply changes a bit the way we will do software engineering in the future, and I think this is a small taste of it. And last week I was away from this, but I was on a workshop with Jan Bosch, who is a former guest also on the podcast, but he's a professor in software engineering, and they had a workshop with a theme, the end of software engineering.
As we know it.
And
touché.
We speak about topics like this, and it's not really software engineering as such, but the way we actually do engineering. And if you try out Lovable, you will see that this is probably the future we will see when it comes to building different pieces of software. It doesn't mean that we won't have things to do. It simply means that we can do so many more things.
We can do one web application. I wish people
would flip and stop saying that it will replace humans, instead say it will enable humans to do so many more things that we were unable to do before at all.
Yeah, but look at it's not replacing the engineer; it's allowing the engineer to build one web application per day. But you need the web application engineer to figure it out and prompt it or do the work. But the productivity is, try to build one web application per day, my dear friends. Try. What else? Let me take one in between, because you now took a couple of very, a little bit of the tech on the techie side, which was super cool. And they were not only techie in the terms of but the entry point was startups, techie, really hardcore examples. One of my favorite shows was, of course, with Rainer Deutschmann. I was super happy to have the former group COO of Telia here. And what's for me, who sort of also wants to see the business transformation of the traditional enterprise in this pod, what stood out to me is he has a fairly unique profile. He has a research background in physics and quantum technology, blah blah blah, and then he moved into working with digital transformation and product. So he has one of, for being on a business side and group COO, a very techie background, and to then converse around, how do you drive change of a large enterprise like Telia, the journey he did for 3 years, or what is the enterprise of the future, optimize or high performance with AI. I found that conversation really refreshing, both in terms of sort of what we need to work out, the foundations, but also equally, he has a world model. He has an idea. We need to work on. Do you remember the 5-6 P's or whatever he called it? Remember? So he had a quite mature view on the stuff you need to work on as a CEO, and I think that was refreshing. It was really nice. So that was one of my favorites.
I was impressed as well. He clearly have a lot of experience and knowledge, so that was a really fun thing.
And then I must actually. You weren't there, so I need to take this up. The presentation and the key and the setup, the pod we have with Sepide on trying to frame what is applied AI research, and where Jesper Fredriksson was seen co-hosting together with me. I think we had a really, really nice conversation, and Jesper did a great job. And I find Sepide is very nice way can evangelize around this. She could be super nerdy, but she's not super nerdy. She can explain it in a way. I was trying to steal your thunder, what I learned from you, Anders. How do we, differentiate the research from engineering? We could take that angle, and we actually improved and added to the dimensions. So starting from that, and so there was many nice angles, and then she had so many cool projects. Did you know that Sepide was working with the Olympic sailing team? No. And so she has been contributing to medals in the Olympics, in the last Olympics. That's some cool storytelling. What's your benchmark? What's your KPI? What did your AI do for you? And this was, of course, about optimizing, building a coaching tool and helping the sailing coaches to strategize on how to draw out the optimum route depending on different wind patterns. Nice. So there were so many angles that she because she's working as a senior researcher that is, with the hands in the dirt in the different projects. And we could flip it from, the project with Volvo over here, the Olympic Committee over here. And I like that. So we could talk about applied AI research, and we can exemplify it with really nice anecdotes. And we could talk about the gold medal, or it was actually silver medal. That was a nice episode for me. What else do we like?
I have to. I think that there are a couple of those that were very interesting for me. In any case, so I think this. I always like those ones or those podcasts that are actually showing that there is a shift going on. That the disruptors of the past are being disrupted today. And I have to start with the AI-enabled future of music industry. If you look at we started the year when OpenAI was sued by New York Times, I believe, right? At the beginning, there was a lot of discussion. Can they use this data coming from these news Then there was a lot of you remember in Hollywood there was a demonstration from the from the actors and then from the musicians about banning AI.
And screenwriters.
Screenwriters killed.
It almost feels like 100 years ago when people are demonstrating for having like motor vehicles on the road because they were scaring the horses. Feels the same momentum, right? So I think the music industry is about to be disrupted quite a lot. Not in that way that basically artists will not make money. They will make more money than before, but now it's much easier to sample actually things and use it in your music without paying royalties forever to the original artists. So I think that AI is becoming this new sampler brush, whatever you want to call it, that people can utilize it in the future. Keep in mind that at the beginning, all of these companies were suing basically the AI companies, and then on the end, when they got the money that they wanted, then it was okay for this what is called content to be used.
But it's like the business model needs to sort itself out.
Exactly. So everybody doesn't mind actually if their IP is used as long as they are paid. That was also the story of Spotify. At the beginning, everybody was against Spotify until they found a way how to monetize on that. And now when everything is super distributed and etc., of course, there will always be some people that are not fully what is called satisfied with it. But the business will find its way. And it's very actually...
do you think artists will get more money in the future?
Yes, of course they will get, because even today they are getting money from the concerts. Spotify right now is the biggest actually campaign ad marketeer for any type of a concert. You go there and you basically click on upcoming concerts and you buy. That is what it is. I bought it from there. Teddy Swims is coming to town. I'm going to there. Kent is coming now. It's they after the final tour. They're making a new tour.
The zombie, exactly. zombie tour.
The zombie tour. So I bought tickets from there. I bought like tickets for Ed Sheeran, and I was just now to super great band. We were there last week. I should know the name. It will come. It's a couple of these beers that are not there. But I'm thinking about this. Then it was another podcast when we were talking about AI in marketing. And I love that because I'm very into marketing and sales. And I think that...
And Emma did a great job.
Yeah, she did a great job. And I think that it's very important for people to start basically talking about how we can utilize AI to effectivize our work so we can be more creative. Because if you look at the workload that we have these days, we don't have time to innovate. We are just tending to like there is something burning every single.
I have this picture in my head where two guys are pushing up a wheelbarrow with stones with the square wheels, and someone is trying to offer them round wheels, and we don't have time to innovate with round wheels. We are too busy pushing up.
I'm serious. I'm looking at my work and what we are doing today, and it's impossible these days to be as effective as it was 10 years ago because it's just the workload is too much. So if I can find a way for me and my team actually to effectivize 40% of their workload and give 20% of that to just basically think. And ask questions. Exactly. That is actually the value for me in AI. Keep in mind, my perception is that we will not be even talking in 2-3 years from now about AI because AI is going to be infused in everything that we are doing. And I think that is also very, it's not fair because many people basically see AI right now, it's linked. So AI equal to me not having work. Which is not true because it's people has been using AI for a long time. I mean, the first ML model from Google was released when? 2001? Everybody
AI has been around since 1950s. And
yes, but in application that has been all around, like people has been using it. Spotify, you go and run, right? And you have like the music is changing At least
that you mean a Google search? Yeah, I mean, Google search have had machine learning, part of Google search for a long time. Yes.
Yes, sure. I was reading about this. So I think it was 2001 that they released the first. I mean, for them, the worst thing for Google was actually to release the Transformer paper.
They should have kept it secret.
They should have kept the Transformer paper. Attention is all you need, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's going quite well. Then we had like another. I was looking for something which was.
I must say.
Let me finish. Then the AI in the welfare. I think there is quite a lot of great opportunities for AI to be. Infused in the workload of all the doctors and all the assistants and etc. Right now, we are just basically, and all of these workers are overwhelmed with administrations.
But I think, here is an important point. We need to be better to communicate about the benefits of AI. And I don't think that you should say, we can save 20% of administrative work. That's not going to sell it.
No.
I think, what the person that we had on said, which is the alternative cost of not using AI, saying if we don't use AI, 10 more people will be killed next year, is so much more powerful.
Yes, but that is harder to sell for me personally, because I think that in general, so I cannot save 10 people today. Give me a second just to think something. I cannot save 10 people today if I have too much to do. I mean, keep in mind that all the doctors
I think we mean the same thing. Because we can remove some of the administrative work from nurses means that they can spend more time with patients and patient care.
Exactly.
That means that they can save potentially 10 more lives.
Exactly.
So it's just a way of communicating, but the same thing.
Yes, I agree. Okay, then we're on the same page.
But listening to you both, I think there's two angles to this, and I agree with both, because sometimes as a business leader in the smaller stuff, you need to be concrete on what can we improve.
What is in for me?
Yes, but from a financial budgeting strategic view of getting the politicians lined up and getting into a media debate that actually gets attention, your way is better. So
I think in general we're really bad about communicating the benefits about AI. Even
we can agree on that.
We can agree upon that, because I can highlight how we sort of we need to talk about value, we say, right? But what do I see in terms of talking about AI down in the corner, and then we then make a major leap to something very fluffy defined as value, and we are not very good at connecting the dots.
Stuck with technology, kind of super cool stuff, but it's not really going to sell it.
No.
So I think in general we are really bad.
So we're talking about the technology cool stuff, and then we're trying to make a superficial leap to value instead of really trying to connect what is the stuff that really contributes to value, which is not the technology, it's not the invention.
But it's not unimportant though. I mean, technology is
the invention is important. Schumpeter, invention, innovation, diffusion. This is 3-step rocket. The techniques put into a commercial setting that actually innovates, put into an operational setting that is adopted at scale.
Absolutely.
But what else?
And I have final one, because I can talk about this. I think it's super good. The final one was for me. I for all European listeners. So this episode, which is basically I think episode 135, HPC in Sweden, which was with Thor Wickfeldt, right? And Ingrid van Sanderberg. It was a great episode, but the output of this is that not very many startup and mid-sized companies understand that there is a European high computing clusters that you can tap into
for free
to innovate with. And that is like a very, very big incentive for the European startups actually to operate on. So we have the sandbag for us to innovate, but this message needs to come. And keep in mind, if you're in any country than Sweden in Europe, you can find a representative person in your country that has access to these supercomputers. And it's European Commission's what is called ambitions to get Europe to innovate fast. Coming from this, I want to conclude just that things are really happening. I can see it now. We have been talking for 4.5 years, and at least in ambition level, that there is some kind of a vision or a future that Europe needs to wake up. We have some things that we can actually put in place right now. Let's innovate. Of course, we have the GDPR and the AI Act and all of these things on a side, but that doesn't stop us actually to be still progressive in the world. And talking about Antonosika and Fever, right? And many of these startup companies that we have. And we were on this workshop. We were in this workshop last week, and for me, it was a little bit strange how we don't realize what we have. Instead of that, we are chasing after the giants all the time. Oh, look at where they are, look at where we are, instead of thinking like, okay, how can we actually compete with them? How can we actually make something right now without thinking too much? Just basically start doing it. Why do we need to chase somebody else? The biggest enemy that we have is ourselves. The biggest ambitions that we have is ourselves. And we need to be better in the Nordics and in Sweden to be much better in just taking that pride and say like, hey, we are still the number 2 startup, what is called incubator in the world after Silicon Valley. It's here in Stockholm. Why do we need to say all the time how bad we are? Databricks, one of the founders, is from here. We have a lot of open source contributors from here. We have the best universities in the world here. We have great, intuitive, very smart people here. Why do we stop? Why are we talking all the time about problems? Let's talk about opportunities. That is what makes basically the future brighter. Let's not talk about problems. Let's talk about opportunities. And I think we have opportunities everywhere right now. It's raining money. The only person that actually gathers the money is the person that will start inventing like, okay, if I take the umbrella and tweak it other way around, I can actually collect the money that is raining. We are keeping the umbrellas as it should be, so they're bouncing off our umbrellas. Let's stop doing that and let's move on. All right, I leave it to you now, guys. So,
do you have any other favorite angles or episodes?
Perhaps Alexander Norén still.
We need to mention Alexander.
I think what he did with the documentary series of 6 episodes of Generation AI was really cool. They had, what was it? They had 6 episodes, something creative. I think the teacher, the dystopian kind of future, the doom, the utopia, the paradise kind of situation, and different kind of settings. What could happen in different scenarios?
But to have Swedish television, like the Swedish BBC approach of a news business tech reporter going deep into our community and having an opportunity to, in my opinion, interview some of the greats in different ways and packaging it, communicating it well.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really a good example of good journalism, something I dearly miss sometimes. And I can understand partly that, journalism, which has gone down, I think, in the last decade, partly because of they've been fighting against social media and they have to chase clickbaits all the time. And having this kind of more in-depth kind of half a year kind of work that he did, but speaking to the top people in AI and then producing this kind of documentary series, I think is a great to see.
And to have him here on the pod, there's a couple of things that stands out. First of all, the key insight, how much better we need to be at communicating, and what happens when you have a communication master in the pod, and picking his brain on how did you think about this, or how do you go about pitching this and all this. So this is number one. The other major standout for me was that someone that is not sort of entrenched in the industry did such an awesome job to navigate the space and also communicate it in an approachable way. This is one of my hardest topics on a daily basis. You ask me, Henrik, what do you do? And it's super hard, right? How do you extract out what is the key message that is worthwhile and that sort of connects? And to have him here is a masterclass in this skill. That was amazing.
Yeah, And I think that's communication at the best.
It's one of the highest levels of communication in Sweden that you can consistently see.
I have one more, and I will leave this one to you, actually.
You just want to point it out.
That was the episode where we had these 3 people from ex-Spotifyers. Matthias Altin, Niklas Modig, and Henrik Kniberg. I think that was...
All right, let me set it up. So this is actually one of those episodes where also I'm a little bit starstruck because if you think about Matthias Altin, Niklas Modig, and Henrik Kniberg, okay, you need to pick apart who they are. So if we start with Henrik Kniberg, who's been at the forefront of Agile, before Agile was, maybe he's right at the cusp when the manifesto is written and communicating with the people in the US who is thinking about this. And what Henrik Kniberg did was he joined Spotify super early and basically came to almost like a research lab for Agile, where the whole culture was Agile at the core, not trying to learn Agile, starting out Agile. And this famous story about Henrik Kniberg working together with Oskar Ståhl and how they are trying to, holy fuck, how should we scale Agile now when we are going from 1 team to 60 to 200 teams in a very short period of time? And out comes one of the most beautiful communications ever seen on Spotify, YouTube, on this, what is called the Spotify model and how we do Agile at Spotify. So these drawings and stuff like that. And now, by the way, he trumped that in terms of views by doing the same story all over again, explaining AI and generative AI. So he's once again a communicative master, but also worldwide renowned guy on Agile.
An awesome communicator.
Communicator.
That rings, it just signifies the importance of being able to communicate. It doesn't matter how knowledgeable you are if you cannot communicate about it.
Yeah, but get this. So that was Henrik. Then we have Niklas Modig. Niklas Modig is one of the most leading experts on lean. And he basically, when he was doing his research and PhD, he was embedded in Toyota, on the Toyota way, lean, Kaizen, everything we talk about, and sort of went deep and wrote one of the strongest books ever written on lean, which is actually not the biggest or thickest book, but the most approachable book on lean, and started a company. And in my opinion, in Sweden, is top in terms of discussing lean. And then we have Matthias Altin, who came in sort of a little bit later in Spotify, worked in Spotify, came with a nice pedigree from fintech and all that, and always was scared. The stories is unfolding here in the podcast, which is beautiful, where Matthias Altin is questioning some of the ideas in the Spotify model, and basically is a little bit scared of saying that because he has profound, iterative and in the podcast is so clear. Henrik Kniberg says, we always understood the Spotify model as a snapshot point in time, how we were thinking about organization. And people took that and did that as a hard copy. So when you came and you wanted to improve on that, I applauded that. And we could see it in the pod, how a release, something that Matthias had thought about for 5-10 years. Oh my God, I was stepping on some toes here. And Henrik said, in the pod, you were not stepping on toes. You got it. Yes. Beautiful. Yes. So good. Fantastic episode.
Love it.
Fantastic episode.
Love it.
And the level of how we converse then around lean, agile, and organization of software and data and AI, top notch, absolute top notch.
We cannot conclude this without that episode. I think it's one of the most.
It's really
for sure.
For someone to get a condensed view from the source. I like it. Really proud of that episode.
All right, I also have one more. So we did some sentiment analysis of the data, and it seems like Henrik has stopped talking about goosebumps, and Anders has stopped talking so much about Elon Musk, which is super good as well, right? So
But we haven't even mentioned that we did a weird podcast on stage with Cassie Kusorkov, to name drop.
Yes, that was very good. We did this during the Data Innovation Summit, so it was super cool to have her on that.
And do a podcast on stage.
On stage with 3,500 people, so that was...
That's a different podcast for me.
Well, I mean, we're going to repeat it again soon, so it's not going to be a big problem. So...
Are you going to keep up? It's a good show. It's a good format.
Oh yeah, I think that we should. We had a lot of opportunities this year to catch up with some great people. We had like Mikael from Meta this year on NDSML. We could have done a podcast there. Something that haunts me this year, but we will make it happen because usually our conferences are on Thursdays.
Yeah, we have some top names.
Yeah. So and then we had some people in data as well that were on Data 2030. So it was a good year. It was a good year. I'm very happy with this. But Anders, maybe you can guide us through what happened from a technical point of view because it was completely. That's why I said if we are looking at the episode 6 months ago, it almost feels like 10 years ago in development of AI. So lead the way.
Well, as usual, the news and the technical project or progress in AI is going faster and faster, and it's certainly true for the year of 2024 as well. What is that saying? They usually say, Sam Altman's usually says, progress will never go as slow as it does today.
Yeah, profound.
It's kind of fun.
It's a T-shirt.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess we have to take the Nobel Prize. It's such a big thing.
Let's start there.
I like it.
Let's start with the end. Let's start with the end.
End?
Yeah, because they had a Nobel Prize ceremony.
After that, it was the week of AI release when everybody made the release. Okay, so in the middle,
let's start with the big one.
I think it's one of the biggest one, and for one, it's a tribute to AI. Although there is no prize in the Nobel Prizes for computer science or AI or compute in general, but still AI won 2 prizes, both one in physics for some weird reason and one in chemistry. I think in physics is really weird. It was John Hopfield and Geoffrey Hinton then, and
the right people, but the storytelling is.
Geoffrey Hinton absolutely, but he got the prize for Boltzmann machines, something that is not used at all today and hasn't impacted AI.
And he himself was always embarrassed. But you tell me the story about. You told this story.
Yeah, well, during the Nobel press conference, when he got the news, he basically got the question, what impact did your invention have of Boltzmann machine on AI? And he's like, nothing. But I did the other thing called backpropagation, which has a huge impact, and it's used in so all kind of AI models of today. And it must have felt really bad for the Nobel Committee to hear him say that on the.
He didn't even want to play ball because they're squeezing it into the category, of course.
But he's a really cool person, and you saw as well, Goran. When you heard him, he's a really funny and cool person.
It was a guy that you want to have a beer with, and probably he would take a beer with you.
He will take a beer, and he will say he will speak his mind.
Yeah, but he was speaking his mind all the time on the conference. He was not. He was unhinged at all. Beautiful guy, man. Beautiful person.
And just without going too long into this, but he was one of the godfathers of deep learning, together with Jan LeCun and Joshua Bengio. And
Canada crew.
Yes, the Canada Mafia.
The deep Canada learning Mafia. Mafia even, not the crew.
Godfathers. But anyway, what he'd done, he also was working at Google for a long time. But he left Google for a couple of years ago, and one of the reasons he said he left Google was because he's very concerned with AI. And the reason he got started with AI to start with was rather from a neuroscience point of view. He wanted to understand the human brain. And he thinks, the best way to understand something is to build that. So he wanted to build the human brain. And he knew that backpropagation, which he was part of popularizing, wasn't a perfect way. He was sure that he knows that's not how the human brain works, but it's the best model that we have, at least. But he knew that that's not really how the human brain works. But then in the last couple of years, he was speaking about the analog intelligence and digital intelligence, where the analog refers to the human brain. And he basically said, okay, I know it's different, but maybe the digital intelligence is superior to the analog version. And that made him really just react and change his
because
mind
we don't
then
we don't really know what we're dealing with, because we're inventing something that is maybe superior to what we can think of ourselves.
But I think it's more like instead of, I think the comparison to the plane and the bird is accurate here.
It's accurate.
And then if you want to have something, super powerful in terms of transportation, an airplane is more powerful than a bird. And the same can be argued here. Backpropagation in the digital kind of intelligence that the deep learning networks have today is potentially significantly more effective than the human brain. And we know that, from a knowledge point of view, there is nothing that beats, ChatGPT and large language models today. They lack in reasoning, but in terms of knowledge recall, it's like no way humans can compete. So now he's focusing a lot on the risks of AI, and that's what he wants to focus on. And he spoke a lot about the loss of control. We can speak forever about this.
Yeah, but, that was one. So let's go.
Yeah, so the other Nobel Prize was then to AlphaFold and DeepMind and Demis Hassabis and the other people that worked on this awesome deep neural network model that were able to predict the 3D structure of proteins. So AlphaFold. And
who's the Swede on the team that is sort of a little bit of a hidden famous person that we should have on the pod even?
Yeah, even Lars Sjölund.
Lars Sjölund.
Yes. But I think it's an awesome example. They actually open sourced all the inventions before, being able to understand the 3D structure of proteins is really important, because that really tells what the functionality of it is. And usually it took like 4 or 5 years for a single protein to have their 3D structure identified. Now they can do it in sub-seconds. And they even took like 200 millions of all the known proteins, did the prediction of the 3D structure, and just put it out there for free to use for any
so
science.
What magnitude of work are we talking about? We're not talking 10x, we're not talking 1000x, we're talking way more.
Yeah, I mean
it's mind-blowing.
Amazing contribution to science, to the world of building knowledge in terms of, is it chemistry? I would say it's more biology.
But it's interesting. Is it chemistry or biology? You would argue biology. Okay, but this also here we have a computational technique. It highlights the computational techniques in the actual field that is then sort of the Nobel Prize. So this feels more accurate.
Yes,
this feels more accurate. In this,
we also need to mention that there is a limitation in the Nobel Prize, right? Because there are only 5 categories
so far,
right? And that is basically how the world was perceived at that point of time. And it's true that they want to remain the legacy, but the world has changed. So maybe it's time to...
Yeah, this was the conversation we had on the pod. We had this on the AI News. And is it time for new categories?
Yes.
That reflects the research.
Changed in 100 years, but yeah, maybe it will happen. Who knows?
Well,
Anyway, it's weird that we didn't get a prize in economy or in the Peace Prize or literature. Perhaps, with ChatGPT in the future, the next year's Nobel Prize in literature will go to ChatGPT. Who knows? Maybe not.
Well,
I don't think so.
Oh, that is so provocative.
It can be that, the brush that we were talking about earlier.
No.
All right.
But other topics that were sort of big, so this was the Nobel Prize. Okay. If we try to do the year in review and pick out a couple of things to spot down on.
Yeah. I think also, it's a couple of things now that's happening late in the year, but still I think the Swedish AI Commission was a big thing as well. It's been working, they've been working around the clock, so to speak, for the whole year of 2024. I've been trying to help them as much as I can and giving some recommendations, but they came out with a report earlier than they should have.
Which is nice, a nice gesture.
Yes.
Showing.
To actually do something ahead of time.
Urgency.
Instead of, And they basically did because of urgency, as you say, since they came to the conclusion that Sweden is not only, they are lagging behind and we need to take action as soon as we can. And therefore they tried to publish this report, a lengthy and very well packaged report. 130 pages.
36.
Something like that.
Did you read it?
Yes, I actually did.
I actually did not finish it, but I started in a strong pace.
You were dedicated.
I was dedicated for half of it. Then something is.
You know what is funny? This is basically Henrik also in a nutshell. So like, Goran, you need to read Plato. So like, okay, and I went and bought the book. So I bought the collected works of Plato.
Really? Shut up! Don't sell me out like this. Don't sell me out like this.
I'm not selling. And then I'm getting this book and I'm starting basically reading before I go to bed, and I cannot finish more than 2 pages of that.
It's heavy shit. It's some heavy shit.
And I cannot actually move to the another page because I cannot. If I haven't understood the first page, I cannot move to the. I was like, strong commitment to reading, but it was. Some great stuff there. So.
Yeah, but so here we have the AI Commission, and the backdrop is, of course, that it was commissioned from the government in Sweden, and it's in relation to creating a more clear AI strategy in Sweden, and maybe even a clear AI budget and everything like this.
That would be awesome if they did. But, yeah.
What was the standouts in the report? For me, there was a couple of things that I thought was quite cool. Stabsläge was fun.
Yeah, the task force thing, you mean?
Yeah. This will never happen. But to show the urgency in a political report and recommend that the government goes to stabsläge on a certain go to high alert DEFCON 4 level on a certain topic, so you can put a task force right under the prime minister to get moving and then stabilize. I think it's the right. I think it's a very refreshing.
But I don't think it will happen.
It won't happen, but it has signals value.
Yeah. And I think it's great that they actually have a they came out with like 75 concrete suggestions.
And a budget.
Yeah, and actually did the work, to try to estimate the cost for each of these, actions. And that was really, really well done. They did their homework for it. So that's, very concrete, a lot of very substantial, actionable, suggestion that they came out with. Then I don't agree with everything they said. I think it's great that they recognize that the tech giants of the world, the AI gap that we have been speaking about so many years here.
4 years, to be precise.
Yeah, they recognize that. And of course, they are much further ahead in US and the few selected tech giants and also the Chinese ones. But then the actions they suggested, saying we should build our own infrastructure, not building on top of their top cloud providers, it's not a practical and useful suggestion in my view. So I think that's really kind of naive and arrogant to even think that you can build something that they spent billions and billions of dollars into bringing up.
But let's go here, because when we had this on the AI news when that happened, I don't think you were here. Well, I can't remember. Were you here?
Sure.
No, but my take, if I'm a little bit more, I was not referring it to that what they were doing was wrong. I was trying to pick it, okay, so this is all great stuff. We can tick a lot of boxes here. What are the blind spots in the commission setup and the blind spots in, what was not mentioned? And we had a very nice conversation here on the pod when we discussed this, and I stand by it. If you look carefully at who is in the commission, the main characters in the commission, you have academia and you have CEOs. And you have politicians. You don't have one single proper engineer. You don't have one single proper CTO of a company. And you don't have one single representation from like a CTO of Spotify who could tell it like it is. And that is actually reflected in the way the report is structured. And it mentions all the important stuff that Sweden needs to do from an academic point of view. And it reflects how the politicians and how the CEOs think about this. But when it comes to building product, engineering, or building the fundamentals correctly, like if you had a CTO with deep knowledge how it works, they would say we need an AI factory, but they would have been much more nuanced. We should not build our own infrastructure. We should build our Swedish layer on top of whatever, stuff like this. I think that's the core gap. This is the engineering gap in this report.
They're missing a point. They're trying to say that, okay, we have the tech giants that are leading to a large extent, but then they say we need 600 new doctors in AI.
Why?
And that's
to do
really,
what? To do what?
If we compare to the tech giants and say how much investment do they do in engineering versus research, is probably at least a factor of 10 times
in
more
engineering
compared to research. And then we have, if you look at the report, 0, I would say.
So we have so we have a very unbalanced view on this, and then even to prove this point, not with ourselves, but with the most knowledgeable people in Sweden, we had Sverker Jansson in here. So Sverker Jansson sits heading of the AI Center in RISE, but what is more important is his pedigree, dating back to setting up 6. What's 6? What's
RISE? Is it the Research Institute of Sweden?
Yeah, Research Institute of Sweden. But in the early days, it was the
6. Yeah.
6. What does 6 stand?
Swedish Institute for Computer Science.
Yeah. So this is where data and AI as an institute grew up before it became RISE. And when he was on the pod, he said something profound, I think. He was talking about, the real difference that is so hard to copy is how the tech giants and the startup community in Silicon Valley has been churning out data AI elite data engineers, AI engineers. So it's not about the research they've done in Stanford, it's about how many are exposed to what elite AI and data engineering looks like. And that is the real money. This is the real game. And so then it's an engineering problem more than a research problem. And this is, that nuance. So nothing is wrong in the report, but there is a blind spot on engineering and the profoundness of what Sverker could use. He said it like it's so obvious. But it's not obvious if you're not an engineer yourself, in my opinion. Anyway, sorry, rant. It's a rant. Yeah. But we had guests who makes this point so well. Okay, that was the commission. Okay, we need to talk something about all the tech releases. Which ones do you want to highlight here? We had the final 12 days of OpenAI in the lately, in competition with Google's releases simultaneously. And then, of course, if you look at the whole year, we have the whole strawberry debacle. We had the whole, what we anticipated, what we actually got in the 01 release. Yeah. We had Anthropic with the computer. We can now run we can release the agency. Computer use. What else? So I'm just. Which one do you want to pick out of which in a year?
My pet thing that I've been speaking about, I think, for a number of years is this kind of latent space reasoning part. And this is literally what O1 is starting to do. So for me, this is a very important and big trend that I think will happen going forward. So in short, O1, no one really knows exactly how it looks like because they haven't released a technical report that gives details about it, but it is doing something else than just the large language model approach for it. So then if that's a star thing, the self-taught reasoner, or if it's just test time compute, I would say it's more the star approach. But in any case, we need to have something that can take multi-step reasoning approach for not being as limited in terms of reasoning as the LLMs have been. So going from the type 1 type of reasoning that we have today in LLMs to a type 2 type of deliberative reasoning.
Kahneman thinking fast and slow.
Yes.
Type 1, type 2, Kahneman thinking fast and slow.
Yes. So this, I think, is a super big trend, and we have just started to see the beginning of this. This is something that we will continue to see for 2025, where we will see improved levels of reasoning, which will also reduce the demand for these kind of super big models that we have today with super big data sets being trained on. So this is a super exciting part, which I think all models now, even Gemini 2.0, which was just released last week, also have this kind of additional reasoning mode. They call it, I'm not sure, advanced reasoning or something. But all of them are taking this approach.
But help me out here, because you talked a lot about this, and I even read an article. I was trying to find it right before how now there was a paper of, I can't remember, it was Google who was how they're now thinking about how you switch between the data space and the latent space. So you need to switch back and forth. Yeah. You do some part of the prompt the way we have done it, and then you switch to a higher reasoning latent. Could you elaborate? What do you mean with the latent space reasoning?
Well, I like the Jan LeCun kind of JEPA approach for it, and that says it rather clearly. And I think if we want to move, and bring the multimodality into a really functioning foundation model in the future, we need to move to a space where text, audio, and images are the same. And we know in the human brain we have some kind of abstract concepts. And we know in the human brain we have a prefrontal cortex where you can have this kind of deliberative, conscious type of thinking. And that's what's lacking a bit in the models of today. So that's what we're trying to get more into. And that means that, instead of what we've done in the past is simply to predict the next token in token space.
Yes, token space versus latent space.
Yes. We could move into doing the next token, if we call it that, but in latent space instead. And this is basically what JEPA is saying. So they're speaking about energy space, or they have this kind of energy latent space.
But for me, who doesn't really get the technicalities, can I understand it as different abstraction levels? So you're working on the concrete token space, on the concrete task abstraction, and then you're trying to find, like multimodality. You're trying to find a similar. You find the semantics that you can.
I think it's easier to understand if we speak about images and pixels.
Yeah.
For text, actually, it does work rather well to work in token space, because tokens in text space are rather high abstraction level.
Okay.
But pixels are not.
Yeah.
Pixels are super low in abstraction level and super high dimensional. So if we were to predict just the next pieces of pixels all the time, it would be super slow and super inefficient. So we need to move back into some kind of compressed space. And that's why we're seeing all these kind of image generator that we have today, the text to image generator, and the video generator like Sora, or we have the image generator like DALL-E or Imagine or Midjourney. They all basically have an autoencoder around it that takes the images and compress it down to a latent space. And then they do the diffusion, the transformer diffusion in that latent space. So they already operate in a latent space. And this is where all the other modalities need to move to, because it's much more efficient. And to me, it's obvious that you need to move to this space and do the reasoning, if you call it that, the planning, at this kind of latent space, and this is what O1 is starting to do as well.
And so therefore, you're moving and doing some of the work in the compressed space, the latent space, that then directs what you do in the token space.
Yeah. Just think about the human mind. When you think about how I should act or respond to a question in like a discussion that we're having now, we simply do not use reactive kind of thinking. We actually do consider a couple of steps ahead, at least a couple of them, even though the human mind is very limited. Still, we do consider in the prefrontal cortex some steps ahead before we speak. At least some people do. Maybe not all people.
I don't.
I think you do. Of course you do. But
yeah,
anyway,
it's a joke.
So I think this is where we need to move to, and it's kind of obvious. And then if you take the JEPA space, that also have the hierarchical kind of JEPA. So it means
so JEPA was then the summary. This is the Jan LeCun paper, position paper on where we need to go.
Yes.
And JEPA stands for?
Joint Embedding Predictive Architecture.
Yeah.
So joint embedding meaning you move from the sensory space into some embedding space, the latent space. And then you do the predictive architecture in the embedding space.
We saw some of this is already a year ago, when we saw some of these talks. We are trying to look at, it's not one big model, it's more like different functions or different features working together, which resembles how our brain
it does
work.
So O1 is moving in this direction, and we will continue to see progress, I think, in 2025 for this, and that will be exciting times. But I think O1 was a super big part of it. It has been similar work in the past with self-taught reasoner, etc. Now everyone else is following. Gemini is following. Claude is already there as well with additional reasoning. So obviously this is a trend that everyone is following.
Yeah, and we had some of the last talks that was trending on YouTube. Just I guess the last week. I can't say his name.
Ilya Sutskever.
Yeah. Exactly. We were sort of predicting the way we have understood pre-training. It will be something else. We cannot the trajectory that we've been on that took us where we are is not the same trajectory from 2025 and onwards.
Scaling will not continue to work by simply adding more parameters or more data. It will need a change in the algorithm or the architecture as well.
Yes, and he was highlighting the example of the compute laws and how we can be more and more efficient. We are there, but we are getting to sort of the finite view of the data. He uses terms like the data is the fossil fuel that is finite. So just a funny, a rhetorical metaphor that I liked. That I
think the best way
makes sense.
Yeah, but I think the best way I would explain it is to say that we have large language models that have a lot of knowledge today, but poor reasoning. Yeah. Then we have actually models that do reasoning really well, but have really poor knowledge, which is the AlphaGos of the world.
Yeah. This is your story.
Then we know that in AlphaGo we can play chess or Go in a very advanced way, much better than any human. Literally much better than any human, doing moves that no human could even think of. Like move 32 when they play Lisa Gold in AlphaGo Chess Master Championship. So we know it can be superhuman performance for that type of reasoning tasks when it comes to very specific, specialized tasks like chess and Go. Now, what you should do is you want to have that type of reasoning combined with knowledge. And this is literally what people are doing now. Yeah. And we know that for AlphaGo and AlphaZero, it was a lot of reinforcement learning kind of techniques. And this is actually what O1 is doing. I mean, if people not seeing this, then, this is obvious. This is what you should combine. And this is what we're seeing.
But now, let me not challenge you, but let's bring in the very refreshing angle from Anton Osika on this. Because now we are talking about how can we continuously improve the way we do the model. And then when we were trying to press him and discuss with him, and actually I got more of his point when I was listening myself to the podcast afterwards in my car. Okay. And his main argument for 2025 was, what? And now let's go away from the frontier and the and the Sam Altmans and this and go back to us. His basic argument was that in order for us to get value and improve the efficiency and productivity of AI has very little to do with stressing the models further, because we are so low in our capacity to build compound AI systems. So he was actually trying to convey to me and you, and we missed that a little bit in the conversation, it stood out more that he was trying to tell us that the way I look at how I improve GPT Engineer Lovable, model here, model there, this is quite important, but the engineering pieces, that's where the real blind spots and the sort of performance gaps are right now. That's the real problems to work on normal value. And that is also a little bit like backing out of this conversation. That is fantastic, and this is where the frontier should go. What should we do? It's an engineering problem still that we haven't at all mastered. What do you think about that comment?
Yeah, of course I agree that engineering is what we're lacking. That's no
ultimately, if you go back to what should Sweden be better at, it's engineering, man.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Where are we in time? How do we want to wrap this up? There's so many other topics. I don't know if we should pick a couple more.
It's a new year, so we need to add some predictions, I guess.
Yeah. But are we done? Because there's so many more key topics for the year. But we could stop there, or we could go one more.
There was definitely a lot of other topics technology-wise. So you got like Microsoft and Copilot releases and agents within Copilot.
Yeah, we haven't talked about agents yet.
We didn't talk about how Google is trying to beat the race, but they are already late because they released the paper, but now they're late, and etc.
Yeah.
So there is quite a lot of things. But in conclusion, I think that there is it's been a much more interesting year in development than it was in 2023.
Yeah.
Is that true?
For sure. I was just looking at the timelines of the releases and etc. Just this December, I think it was crazy. It was a 1 week when everybody released the new models.
Yeah.
So you can see that right now it's like a really competitive edge for everybody that are working in this field.
Yeah, but there's a fun anecdote here. Do you remember how we were planning, let's do an episode to speculate on what is Q-Star and what is Strawberry? And you were there prepared with Jesper. And it was literally the day after we did that speculative podcast. They released 01. And okay, so then now I can ask you, did 01 live up to the expectations of the speculation, or was the speculation on point? Because this was speculation like 1 or 2 days before.
I mean, I think the technique behind it, even though we don't know the internals of 01, it's basically the star approach. It's basically what everyone thought, the Q-star would be, the star kind of thing. So, but in that sense, then the question is more, did it improve in skills that much? Did it improve in benchmark results? Did it improve in reasoning capabilities? What's been interesting, I think, when they released the 01, the full 01, compared to the 01 preview and the 01 mini that they released earlier, the 01, the full version, did not actually improve that much when it comes to, compared to 01 preview, and that's kind of interesting. But it did improve in speed, engineering kind of KPIs rather than research KPIs, and that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And then you said it when I think we talked about this with Anton, that 01 is super overperforming or fantastic in very narrow type, really proper reasoning topics. And once again, Anton was like, when do you really need it for the practical? So it's hard to judge, because if you go in and if you try 01 with the wrong problem, you don't really see it. But if you try it with the right type of problem, it's fantastic.
But the full release of 01 tries to make that classification in the beginning. So for simple problems, if it's just a factoid that you need to retrieve from the knowledge, then it does it very quickly.
And then the speed is up again.
But if it's more of a reasoning task that requires, thinking to a much larger extent, then it will do so.
But and how did you reflect on the price hike for this Pro model, like $200 or something ridiculous like that? Trying to show that it's super something else.
Yeah.
What is your take on that?
Well, if you get more compute time, potentially that's what you get with the Pro, with the $200 per month kind of thing.
Okay, there's a fundamental cost topic here.
Yeah. I mean, it is very costly to have this kind of extra, test time compute or the inference compute that you get. So unless you have some kind of other business model around it, I can understand OpenAI's view on this.
It runs a lot of more compute potentially.
It's very costly for them to operate 01.
Okay.
So if you want to have this huge amount of reasoning and do the really advanced kind of questions, then they need to have another price model than selling everything for $20 a month, which you get. You get the 01 in the ChatGPT Plus, but with potentially some limited time for the more advanced reasoning tasks. And then you get, more time in the Pro. I can sort of in some way get it, but I think it's very expensive, of course.
But it's also because it almost becomes a marketing stunt. Ooh, $200, wow, it must be super good.
But I think it's fun if we just speak about, the OpenAI 12 days kind of releases, the Shipmas thing. So they have now
Shipmas.
Yeah, ship one every day until Christmas. And, the first release, the 01, the proper big one, and the Pro subscription, as you spoke about. But then they had an awesome new fine-tuning approach as a second release, which was really fun, I think, and that is really cool. So you can with reinforcement learning do fine-tuning with just 12 examples or something, and you can take the mini version of one, which is 10 times more efficient and cheaper, and make it work better than the full version by fine-tuning it for your own needs. And I think that for many companies, that will be super valuable.
So here we're coming to the fine-tuning on how to make this useful and in production
from
practically.
An engineering point of view.
From an engineering point of view, exactly.
And then release Sora as well. So this is available for anyone to do video generation, also with improved engineering capabilities.
And you get Sora functionality now with your normal ChatGPT Plus.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Not in Europe, but...
Not in Europe yet.
But yes.
And what about, pick apart a little bit, because someone I was reading sort of, who had the better Christmas release party? Google did a lot of cool stuff as well. Mm. And someone was sort of rooting that, wow, OpenAI, and someone was rooting, Google's release was more profound. Mm. So which one do you think stands out, what happened in the Google space?
I think OpenAI trumps Google every time.
Yeah.
And they seem to time their releases so that Google's releases seems like nothing every time. They seem to have some insider and a great marketing department.
But I saw several arguments that this time Google did good. Yeah. But you're not that you haven't changed your mind.
No, not so far. I mean, they have it's a lot of things, the Astra thing, what was it?
Exactly.
Mariner thing, the Jules thing.
Astra, Mariner was the ones I was thinking about.
And also, Jules was some kind of...
And you want to summarize what they were? What was the Astra? What was the Mariner?
Astra was more think how you can take your phone and just walk around and it can actually understand from a multimodal point of view what you're seeing. It's like what OpenAI released with the advanced voice and video mode, so similar in that sense. Then Mariner, let me see if I remember it correctly, but I think it was more the browser experience, so you can actually control your browser and let it actually take actions with your browser, similar to computer use.
Computer using traffic.
Yeah, which is cool stuff, so moving more agentic there as well. So that's really cool. So it's taking a lot of steps there as well, but a lot of engineering things been moving into the Flash molds. Is similar to O1 Mini, but Flash it is still copying OpenAI and getting it slightly worse. So
you are right now. You've always been a Google fanboy, and right now you're an OpenAI fanboy a little bit more.
I don't like OpenAI. I'm just trying to...
It is called closed AI. It's not OpenAI. Yes. Just make sure.
I actually think OpenAI, given, if it's something that's happened to OpenAI in 2024 is surprisingly high level of churn of people.
Yeah, so, very big churn.
Ilya Sutskever left, then, Mira Murati left, the CTO. Basically, the whole safety team left. More and more people, some other person, high roller, left now today as well. I think it's going south for OpenAI coming year.
It's tricky. It's a tricky situation.
Yeah, so...
We already opened predictions for 2025.
No. But before we leave, I have one more way to reflect on 2024, and then we can go to predictions. Or did you have something else?
Yeah, because I think we are missing the chip battle.
Yeah, the chip battle.
Good point.
Good point. Thank you. To do a couple of more.
That Amazon now is in play.
Yeah, I heard that.
The chip battle.
Yes, the chip battle. So it's
and the whole infrastructure battle.
The whole infrastructure. Yes. AMD. Let's go chip.
Yeah, I think something that's been insane this year is simply the investments in infrastructure. And Sam Altman started out saying, in the beginning of the year, we need $7 trillion in coming years infrastructure for AI.
And then, at some point, NVIDIA topped.
Then Microsoft came out and said, we're going to invest $100 billion for the Stargate thing in 2028, and it's already starting to roll out these hundreds of millions of data centers. Meta came out saying also they're going to invest hundreds of millions of dollars. Sorry, billions of dollars. It's a big difference. And going to get hundreds of thousands of GPUs in its clusters. Elon, and I actually like to mention this. a bit more, because I think that's the up-and-coming star now when it comes to AI in coming year. Elon, released this Colossus, and it's their new data center with 100,000 H100 GPUs. And what they did is something even more astonishing, which is that normally, if you want to have a large training session for a super big model, you can't get more than 20 or 30,000 GPUs in sync. So when training, you need to basically have them all in sync, so they all know what parameters to update, etc. And no one has really figured out how to do that to an extent larger than 20 to 30,000 GPUs. But now Elon suddenly made it work for 100,000 GPUs. So more than 3x more than anyone else thought it was even possible to do.
So there was this thinking thing that was amazing. And then I saw the CEO of NVIDIA summarizing how the fuck they put up a huge data center in less than 21 days.
Yeah, in 19 days.
19 days for something that...
The rack was put up until the first training, but then they had the whole data center built in 122 days as well.
But both two metrics are insane to anything in mankind history. So computer-wise, it's such feats that we can't
So I think right now, and it's just a few weeks back since they launched the Colossus thing, I think right now Elon's XAI have the most efficient data center for training AI.
Yeah, so and you're basing that on the topic that he's syncing 100,000 CPUs. So he's 3x GPUs. So he is syncing 3x more than anyone else.
With a new technology, together with NVIDIA as well.
Yeah.
But it's,
and even Jack Ma, he looked like a schoolboy. How do you do something like that in 19 days? Yeah. What?
Yeah. That's engineering.
It's engineering, right? It's engineering. It's not research. It's engineering. Okay. All right.
So we're going to see a lot of infrastructure going to happen, and everyone is building their own chip. OpenAI is building their own chip as well.
Yeah, and there's the whole geopolitical discussion on, what's the cycles of getting off the addiction to TMC,
Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company.
So basically they had a world monopoly for tens of years, and now everybody is thinking about how do we get out of this situation, monopoly. And it's insane money in terms of geopolitical power struggle that's going on. And in this bloodbath, at some point, I think NVIDIA also topped the highest valued companies in the world. From nowhere, boom, spiked.
Yeah, they've grown. I'm not sure how much this year, but 300% or something.
No, not 300% this year. I think it was around 150.
Yeah, but anyway.
They went to the top and surpassed even Microsoft and Apple.
Yeah, for a while, market cap. Okay, so that was the semiconductor space. I want to do one last sort of stop down. Where are we right now in the conversation? End of 2024, open source versus proprietary models. We need to say something about that. Yeah. Where did we end up? Because we had predictions, we had conversations, we talked about AI apartheid, we had we need to make sure we go open source, and then we have now Hinton saying it's the most craziest thing we can ever do. It's too scary. So where do we stand?
It's 300%.
No, it's 161%.
160.
What? Okay. Yes. Okay.
But how would we?
Don't make me so happy.
But how do we summarize the open source or open weight? Anton, also we need to talk about open weight.
Yeah, well, let's do that. And also, I think we should, if you put up the Tesla stock market after the Trump election, that would be a super fun graph to see. Okay,
which one?
Tesla stock after the Trump election.
Yes.
And I'm glad actually. Yeah. Anyway, okay, let's go.
It didn't spike that much. It's like
go back like 3 months or something.
Yeah, we'll do a year. So let's do it.
That's a lot. That's a big spike.
That's a big spike.
It's not a big spike, man. It's 82%. That is not a big spike. It just looks big.
Well,
right.
I think it is.
In normal terms, 82% is good.
I made a lot of money from it, so I'm happy.
Yeah, you should buy a Tesla car.
No, that's throwing money into whatever. All right, okay.
Shut up. We both driving Teslas.
I know.
What about your bikes? How many times did that get stolen? Fuck off.
Oh yeah. Okay, but go to open source. My thinking there, and please disagree if you want, but I think we're going to move to the frontier models being less open source, but then we're going to have a spectrum of models that are more specialized that are getting open source. But for the frontier models, I think even Meta, that today is launching Llama open source, not in Europe, but at least in the other parts of the world. But I think they will at some point soon stop releasing open source as well.
Why?
Because
what is the driving force for this prediction?
Yeah, because of the abuse of AI. Then
it's too scary. It's too powerful.
Because of Jeffrey Hinton, and
it's too powerful.
It's too easy to abuse AI if you start to release this model completely open source. And OpenAI, of course, stopped that for a long while back. Google didn't and will not do it. And the only one really left is Meta that have these kind of frontier models.
Jan LeCun is really pushing this story still.
He's still saying that. Elon is also trying to, they released a lot of open source as well. I think Elon will not either.
But Jan LeCun is still philosophically inclined to open source. Like we had Eric Hugo, who has a very ideological view on this.
Yeah, so I may be wrong, but I think in 2025 we will see a model that is released from Meta that is not open source.
Okay, I agree. Let me put another angle on this hypothesis. And that is for the normal companies who really want to benefit from AI practically in healthcare or whatever, I'm not sure we always need to look at the frontier model. No. We are much more better off to cost effectively look for open source approaches or different things,
but I think
much
you can
smaller.
Use the top frontier models to do model distillation down to your model you have. So you use them as a teacher.
Yes.
And that's how you're going to use a lot of them, because it's not practical to use this super huge model. They're super expensive.
All right, so break that down slowly, what you said now, because I think that is exactly what we're going to go.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have frontier models to teach the baby models.
Yes. Because it's super expensive, to run this kind of, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 trillion parameter
It's not even
models.
funny to argue with you. We think the same.
But it's super expensive, and you don't really need it for more specialized problems.
Yeah, but the profound thinking, which is so obvious, like when you say, we need to combine the thinking and the reasoning, the data, the thinking is like, this is too fucking expensive. And then we have the normal bipolar argument, we should stop it. Fucking meet in the middle. Optimize. What do you use it for in the outlier case of training the baby models? So obvious. But the media and the way we communicate is always bipolar. And the same goes with the argument where we should combine the two. Bipolar, we are fighting these stances instead of combining them. And I think it's so, when you think about that, of course the frontier models have a place, but of course they are too expensive to run in order to run your fucking small appliance at home.
Yeah. And if you have 1 million users or even 1,000 users sometimes, and they have to do a lot of reasoning or a large number of inference steps, it will be too expensive to run it on the big one.
Yeah, so then we get to a nuanced conversation, and I want to bring it a little bit back to the AI apartheid ideology we talked about with Eric Hugo, who actually point out in a very nice way, when we talk about the AI divide, it's easy to think about the AI divide from the tech giants to Europe. Then, of course, there's another spectrum from Europe to like Africa or the farmer who is forced to have 5G in order to work with IKEA in Sweden. That's technology apartheid. And in that sense, open source is so detrimental and so important in the way Africa, or we can get a more balanced distribution of intellectual power in relation to AI. So then it makes sense, right? We're going to have that, but it's not going to be the way the normal people, the normal businesses scale this. So there are going to be huge opportunities for the companies fine-tuning models on certain applications or industries, and they're probably going to do it, training them. And maybe here is going to, how we're going to use supercomputers or HPC and all that, and then we're going to package it and we're going to do something else. I can really see this. I don't think it's that hard to put those ideas together.
Yeah. I don't think HPC is a solution if we're trying to say that that's a good thing, but
no, that's another deeper conversation. We take it afterwards. Yeah.
But still, that we need to have specialized models, and I think what OpenAI just released with the new reinforcement learning fine-tuning approach, where you can train the mini model, which is like 10 times less, and you can make the performance of that be superior to the big one by having 12 example data points.
Nothing.
It's cheaper to, just training that, you can put it through the API, they train it for you. It's like AI as a service, if we call it that. And then you get the model back. It's very cheap to run, and it's better and faster.
This will,
obvious.
It's so obvious. We will figure this out. Is that the end note of sort of summarizing the year, or did we miss something major? Otherwise, I'm quite happy to find.
Yeah, perhaps just one point. 2024 has been a super election year as well.
Yeah,
and it's.
Was it a fake? We talked about. We were prediction. This was going to be the AI election year. Was it or not?
Well, I think it was a lot of AI being used, generative AI being used, but not to a bad sense. I think
as we were fearing. We were fearing more.
I think we were, have a bigger concerns with potential manipulation and disinformation being in a conscious way. But in reality, of course, Elon's use of putting up a video of Kamala Harris saying that she knows nothing about how to run a country, but it doesn't matter when you're just a puppet or something. Everyone understood it's a parody. Everyone understood it's not her saying it. And a lot of people used generative AI more like a parody kind of thing, more as a way of communicating.
It's a tradition. We used it as a traditional political satire approach, as a way to make our points, communicate our points.
Yeah, I think it's an example of how people and society in general are surprisingly adaptive. It was actually the same in the election in Argentina back in October last year, where they have a huge use of generative AI, but everyone understood that this is fake, and it just for fun. And they had the two people, Massi and Milei, who were in the two final candidates. Milei won later, but both of them, were putting the competitor, so to speak, with a zombie or something. No one really believed it was true. They didn't really try to.
It's satire. It's political satire, and political satire works in its context, but it's not the same as deep fakes or fake news.
Yeah. So I think in general, in the election, of course, AI was used a lot, but not to the extent, in a bad sense, that people feared, which is good.
But so now we can talk about bad versus tasteless. Did you see when they were trying to prove how uncensored it was, and you saw this? They had videos of pictures of Donald Trump together with Kamala Harris and how their baby would look like. And it was all over. It was all over. It was spinning for a couple of weeks.
That's funny.
And it was funny, and it's not even politics. It's just hilarious. And it was more like, you can do whatever fucking crazy thing you want with Grok. That was, of course, Elon free speech lobbying. What happens?
Yeah, but okay.
Yeah, that's good. That was another geopolitical. There's other. Yeah, no, I think we stop there.
Yeah,
I think we should go we haven't. Let's bring in some kind of future outlook. How do you want to frame that? I try to frame it, but you can flip it. I was a little bit thinking about, okay, where are we going in 2025? And not to be sort of too bold and go too crazy. I was kind of looking at what are the key themes and guests and topics that if we want to be on point, we should be talking about this stuff next year. So what should we have on the pod to be on point the next 6 to 12 months?
I like actually OpenAI's levels of AGI. I think it's actually more. I think it's rather educational and pedagogical in a sense. You know, it starts level 1, I believe, is conversational AI, chatbots that we have today. Next step is reasoning. That's basically what we're working with right now. Third level is autonomous, meaning it can take action, becoming a bit more agentic, but autonomous is the word they use, which I think is good. And then I think they go into level 4 in innovation, or invention, but innovation. And then level 5 is organization. So I guess in coming year, we will see a lot of, for one, reasoning, of course, but also starting to come more with autonomous and the agentic approach. And that's obviously, I guess, where we will see a lot of progress going forward. But also then in terms of engineering, I think, you know, at least for the tech giants, they know and they do focus a lot on engineering aspects of this. And it's not scalable to have these huge, you know, frontier models being used for real. So that's another part that I think we will see a lot of work going forward.
If I pick up the thread on the outlook for next year, and we spent a lot of time trying to wrap our head around the word agentic, because it became such a trending word and it was all over the place, and we understood. So what we are working on Standout is a lot of times not only about the techniques, but how do you organize the teams and the people and the operate and the governance. And we realized that we wanted to try to reclaim the word agent, and agentic is of course very old in both of software engineering, building again agent-based systems, and then you can talk about this terminology in business and organization. What does principal agent problem mean in a completely different setting? So we were trying to basically do a lead in with the hype, starting with the agentic workflows and talking about, you know, agentic workflows in the technology, and then move that into what does it mean to have agency between people, and, you know, how you organize autonomy of teams versus autonomy of systems. And this leads us down the path, and now I'm connecting back to you, that we you know, another way of talking about these levels. If I'm trying to communicate that to someone who's not in AI, well, you can kind of see it. We saw it in 2024 was the year of the Gen AI, and the year of we are starting to talk about we were prompting for solutions. And if you go the next level of autonomy in this, we're going to start prompting on the problem level, where the system then is more autonomous to sort out the steps, the sequencing and the reasoning in order to solve the tasks. So we are going on a trajectory where we're going from, you know, getting support with our workflows, then we can prompt for solutions and getting automation around solutions we are prompting, and we're going to now prompt on more and more abstract levels, you know, and therefore giving agency and autonomy to our systems to do things. And this has to do with the elevation of reasoning and all those skills. Yeah. And if you come back, if you connect it back to, you know, old school approaches, we talked about RPA a couple of years back, robotic process automation. What was that all about? We were trying to build autonomous or automating very dumb processes, low process, knowledge intensive processes, and we are now trying to really do autonomy and automation, augmentation. On
RPA could finally have some AI in it, potentially.
So RPA could finally have some AI in it, and we could maybe move into more knowledge intensive processes. And all this is on this trajectory, and the technology is unlocking it. The path of what you're talking about, the latent space, the reasoning, is on this trajectory of we are giving more and more increased agency to the systems, and therefore more and more autonomy on more complex tasks. That is a given. So this is for sure a topic that we will have.
Yeah, I wouldn't phrase it as strongly, but yeah, sure. I agree. It's going to move in that direction.
Yeah, but then now I come to the next pet peeve that I think we need to add to that, which we are not talking about enough, and that is the fundamentals of. We need to stop talking about the model, and we need to start talking more about the engineering around AI compound systems. And I can refer back to when we had the podcast with Cassie Kusorkov, and we talked about this on stage, and she did a couple of things. She did a reflection of when you build an AI system that really work enterprise grade, the model is just one brick in the brick wall. And what she was really doing, she was giving a picture of the paper from Google.
Hidden technical depth of machine learning.
From, what is that, 2015, right? Which basically says, you know what, in order to get this into engineering production, this is just a very small part. And every single guest we've had, if we talk with fever on how we build machine learning in algorithms or anything else, everybody who knows anything about anything downplays the model and upplays the engineering. And so there's a huge gap in conversation on compound AI systems. This is what I want to see more on this pod, that we can demystify not only AI, but what it takes to go to production in AI.
And find true value. Yeah,
find true value. But awesome. because that would be awesome, right? Because then we need, we have the Lales of the world, we have many different angles here. But I think if we can help bring that picture of engineering around the model, that would be awesome.
I think another thing, and this is harder to be sure of, but I think we will start to see the demise of OpenAI in coming year.
You think so?
Yes.
Why?
I think it's falling apart a bit internally.
You think so?
With all the people that had left already this year, I think, when Sam Altman and his ideas going forward, it's but on the other hand, he got in a deal with Apple, that's in the 12 days of releases that they just did, they also announced the Apple Intelligence using ChatGPT. So I mean, it's not like they will be dead, but I think there will be an increase in concerns with how it's being driven.
Okay, so let me be very provocative. Why do we need to care about that? Do we need to care about the demise of OpenAI, or is that just a natural cycle of Silicon Valley? Or is it something bigger here at stake?
They've done something amazing. I think,
agree. Given that.
Yeah, so they've been a big part of driving AGI, I think, to a much faster pace than we otherwise would have done unless they've actually been there. So they've done a lot of great work in that direction.
They sped up. They sped up the whole trajectory of this, for sure.
And then the question is, how much will the safety of AI concerns play in? Because that's where they're lacking more and more, I think, in OpenAI and the way they do it. And if the AI race between the tech giants just keep accelerating, then it won't matter, because then it's simply the one that makes the most money that will win. But I do think actually it will matter. I do think that that they are racing ahead without thinking potentially about the humankind. The mission of OpenAI. What is it? It's something like they want to find AGI for the good of humanity or something. I'm paraphrasing here a bit, but it's something about the good of humanity that should be part of it, good for humans. And it seems that they're not really emphasizing that part that much. So in that sense, and given also what XAI is going to do now in coming year, I think that will be more than people think. And I think
but should we put more attention on the frontier models and what's happening in Silicon Valley, or if I flip it, how big impact in what we should be talking about is about this, and how much, if you're in Europe, should be about the implementation of the AI Act and the. I really want to flip it to smooth and safe AI innovation to adoption. If we can flip the script on this as a control function of something that is stupid to actually helping us engineer better systems, then I'm all for it, actually.
Yeah, and I wish Europe and Sweden would invest in exactly that.
Yeah,
but that's not what we're seeing, unfortunately.
Well, how can no? Good. If that's what we want to see, who should we have as guests? What should we talk about to take a compliance topic into a smooth and safe innovation topic at this pod? How can we help
innovation. That? We need engineering.
Okay, even better. Smooth. Innovation in terms of the commercial value, the engineering, smooth, effective. Innovation, adoption, put the engineering in there for sure. I agree.
Because I agree very much with what you're usually speaking about, the invention, innovation, and then having diffusion and crossing the chasm in different ways. But when you look at what the HPC clusters that we're investing in and what the AI fabric in Sweden is going to work with is they're using the term innovation. I think using it in the wrong way.
That's invention.
Because
this is
invention. It's just you're just allowed to use it to do some kind of prototype, and that's really bad.
But then when I flip it, if we have the opportunity to influence the Petra Dalundes and the tours of the world, and flip them into not only thinking about the factory as a technique
if they were to
topic.
help you with the important engineering aspects about being compliant, about finding the affordable kind of sustainable models to run and doing fine-tuning from the frontier models that actually helps companies, that would be amazing.
So if you flip the AI factory, if you flip the TEF approach into engineering, innovation to adoption type topics, proper innovation, engineering, product development, and I put it to you, it's as simple as understanding properly a software development lifecycle, and ultimately understanding what questions should be dealt with in each part of the lifecycle, including safety issues, including engineering issues. Then it would be amazing.
Yeah, it would. It could be.
It could be amazing. I'm going to cut this out and send this to Petra. But I would really. Okay, so let's take another future outlook, and this is very Swedish.
Yeah,
where is the Swedish ecosystem going in 2025? And let me give you a little bit of a backdrop. We had the AI Commission. And we had a lot of interesting people working on the AI Commission. My personal take was too few engineers on that, but that's another thing. Then you have had now for 1 or 2 years, or many years, we had Vinnova working into AI Sweden and that setup. I would argue that in this podcast, we actually made a fairly large push. It wasn't intended, but we had several guests from RISE this 2024, simply because they were doing fucking cool stuff. They're doing good stuff, man. And one of these topics where we talked about, you should have been here with Cepeda, is, why is RISE so important in the AI ecosystem? And she said it beautifully. And she exemplified it with the Olympics engagement. So when they put the team together to maximize the opportunity and win a gold or silver medal, there was the AI piece. Then it was the manufacturing of composite materials piece. So it was the whole applied AI where you need a real muscle of institutions from different disciplines, because AI is cross-sectional across all this. Like Sverker Johnson tries to work across all of this, which makes it really hard if you're very narrow, and only focus on one thing, or you don't have the body behind it. So I got one of two aha moments on where the Swedish ecosystem needs to go, and I think RISE should play a bigger role, in my opinion.
Oh, sounds good to me.
Well, I have to cut it here. We have been on now 2 hours, 10 minutes. I think it's enough. And plus we have a dinner table waiting for us. So I think it's time to say goodbye. From my side, I think that we are expecting a very good 2025. The world is going to shit as we know it.
Don't end like that. Come on, fuck off.
I had to be a little bit like that. But my point is actually different. Let's just do good with AI. That is what is most important. We are living in troublesome times, and we need innovation, and we need
the innovation, but it needs to be for good.
Yes, exactly. So let's do good. And that would be my sentence for this year. Thank you, everybody.
No. I need to ask the producer, where do you want to take the show next year? What is your top 1, 2, 3?
So we are looking forward to coming back on 16th of January.
That's when we kick off.
Season
Who are we going to have on the first episode?
The first, we're going to have Pietro here from Silo AI. We're going to talk about deep learning. So we're going to go a little bit deeper in some of the topics, because in my aspect, I think that we're going to go a little bit to narrow AI rather than to large language models and etc. Practical use cases, a little bit more towards agentic AI. And how I understand agentic AI is just basically a very specialized AI model that will help you out with specific things. So I think that is actually going to be a big trend next year, because most of the organizations are still struggling and have challenges of getting a value of AI. That has been a topic of all of the conferences that we did this year across the globe. I think that we will see quite a lot of geopolitical, I would say, investments in AI.
Yeah. It's going to be a Trump year as well. That's going to be really interesting.
Exactly. But we can also see that if we ask all the governments why they're putting all of these investments in AI so much. If we're talking about USA, we are talking about Silicon Valley usually, but we are not talking about the country per se, right? Although they have done quite a lot of big investments, and they're still investing quite a lot, but we can see that Europe is actually moving. We can see China, of course, moving a long time ago, and I can see Australia, I can see the Middle East investing quite a lot heavily in this. The question is just basically why? And for me, the why is very simple, because AI is here to stay. AI is going to be infused in most of the software that we're using today. People will be using AI to optimize their work, to be more effectivized. I think that we need to drop this, that AI is equals to taking people's job rather than it's going to create jobs. We need to think about that. Because
it will augment. It will be another tool.
It's just another tool. I mean, nobody lost job because internet came and the computers came. It just changed job from basically going in a factory to going and working on a computer. So it's going to be the same thing.
Could be a tough transition period, though.
It will be a tough transition, but no transition is easy.
Yeah.
That is what it is, okay? And keep in mind, like that this is only gonna, right now it's affecting the white collar people and etc. People that are still working with construction, etc. They will not be utilizing AI for many years to come. Maybe augmented the reality when it comes, it's going to be much better, because then they can see everything before they maintain stuff. But I think it's very important to see the macro perspectives of this, that AI is here to stay. Companies are investing in this. People are investing. People are already using AI, right? Since ChatGPT came, everybody use it in universities, in schools, in everyday jobs, and etc.
AI has been used for 30 years.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's not something that is actually right now.
It is not new anymore. That's the thinking. We're wrong.
Exactly.
It's just more powerful.
Exactly.
It's not new. It's more powerful.
So keep in mind, we were talking about this 4.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. And I can see that people are fed up with AI, but they're not fed up with the transition and the value that they get from it. And I would like to dedicate the next season and year in exploring actually the frontiers of how we can implement this technology in a different set, because we need to have innovation and application on the same top. You remember in the 90s, there was this TV show which was like, how the future will look like. I don't know what was the name right now. It was like a documentary series when they were The Future Frontier was called, right? And they had all of this. In future, you will see satellites. You will have like people using mobile phones and everything else. We need to start continue believing in such things. We need to explore the AI field and how we are advancing in this in a more deep way. But also I think it's very important for us to stop for a moment. Do not think about AI. Replace the AI term with something else, which is going to be the value for the person that is actually using it. If that is an artist, how you can actually create art in a different way. If he's a doctor, how you can actually utilize this tool to be better in what you're doing. So it's quite a lot of things. It's enough talking about just AI in a platform way or
the technique, going from the invention to the real innovation and diffusion.
Yeah, exactly. So I would like to see a mixture between innovation and application, and that is where we are going. So I'm looking forward to meet all of our listeners once again in 2025. It's going to be a great year. Of course, a lot of changes and etc. But you will find us here every Thursday, 5:00, having a beer and being open to you guys. And the chat is always open. So communicate, speak with us, and
more. You promised more Nordic than Swedish guests.
Yes, we can actually even do better than that. So we will try to actually do quite bigger things. So from me, thank you for this year. It's been a fantastic to have you as listeners and viewers. It's been fantastic to have all of these podcast guests here. And to have you here as well, you two guys, you have done a marvelous job for 4.5 years, and I'm looking forward to continue and see where this is going to bring us to. That is what it is.
Thank you so much, Goran.
Thank Goran. Thank you.
Everyone else. Cheers for that.
Cheers for that. Cheers to that. Happy Christmas, happy holidays to everybody, and a happy New Year. That is what it is. Yes. So cheers to everybody.